which is that the slaughter of the Kurds being done by Turkey is yet another negative consequence of the regime change war that we've been waging in Syria. Donald Trump has the blood of the Kurds on his hand, but so do many of the politicians in our country from both parties who have supported this ongoing regime change war in Syria that started in 2011, along with many in the mainstream media who have been championing and cheerleading this regime change war. Not only that, but New York Times and CNN have also smeared veterans like myself for calling for an end to this regime change war. Just 2 days ago, the New York Times put out an article saying that I'm a Russian asset and an Assad apologist and all these different smears. This morning, a CNN commentator said on national television that I'm an asset of Russia. Completely despicable. As president, I will end these regime change wars by doing two things.
Tulsi Gabbard calls out CNN and the New York Times to their face. CNN and the New York Times were hosting this debate. Both of these organizations had literally, within a day, slandered her relentlessly. A woman who served in our armed forces outright slandered her, saying that she was some kind of Putin apologist or Russian asset because, why? She wanted to end the wars. She wanted to bring our troops home. People like her who was serving in the military, who she came to the conclusion, we have been waging wars not because it was in the best interest of the United States, but for geopolitical and economic reasons. We need to stop that. That is not in our best interest. And other people who did not like her making that perspective, their argument is a little bit more absurd when you jump into it. I mean, ultimately, for some reason, the United States belongs in Syria. I have no idea why, but for some reason, they believe that's true. Her secondary point is always missed. We're supporting terrorists. We are supporting terrorists. We've been supporting terrorists in those regions for the reason of knocking down Assad. In fact, you don't even have to take Julian Assange's word for it. It was in the New York Times. I read it in the New York Times, but you don't even have to take their word for it. Look at us. Look at us. Washington Post. The gray zone. But let's be traditional. The Washington Post. Let's be more traditional. Joe Biden. It was known. It was an open secret. We were in Syria to take down Assad, and we were looking for all of these opportunities to do so, especially with this notion of a chemical weapons attack, which was Obama's red line, in which Obama, I would argue, the terrorist that was trying to take down Assad with the help of the U.S., was praying for. Because do you remember what was going on back then? They would argue with a straight face, Assad is a monster, and Assad gassed his people. And people like me would ask, well, wait a minute, he's taken back like 95% of his territory. Why would he do that? And they would repeat, well, he's a bad guy. And it would make no sense. And they would continue to repeat it. The catch here is, we were supporting those terrorists. We were trying to knock down those governments. What Tulsi Gabbard said here was right. And she was also right that the New York Times slandered her. Just look at the byline of the article that she's talking about. This was an article, a quote-unquote journalistic endeavor. As she injects chaos into the 2020 primary by accusing her own party of rigging the election, an array of alt-right internet stars, white nationalists, and Russians have praised her. Because if they've praised her, then there has to be some aspect of her that is similar to those type of folks. Slanderous. She's done nothing at all, that they could point to that would get across what they are accusing her of, other than, I want to stop these wars and bring our troops home. And none of these people are going to put on a tin hat and go out there trudging into Syria. But they're okay with other people's kids doing it. And the woman who says, let's bring them home, is the one that gets slandered. And just so you can see her point, because I want you to see her point before you even get to the flip side. This was CNN. People that hosted the debate.
There is a chance that Tulsi's not just working for the United States of America, but I digress. So,
oh, wait a minute. What does that mean?
He's just said that a woman who served in our armed forces put on the uniform. Do you realize only 2% of our population serve in the military? Meaning this guy, most likely, would never serve in the military. And yet a woman who has served in that military, he is saying she is most likely working for a foreign power. That is utterly despicable. He should lose his fucking job. How does he still have a job? How does he still have a job? How? He's just slandered a woman that is in our military, and he would never, ever, in any circumstances, put on a uniform. This was the network that hosted the debate. Now, if your name is Tulsi Gabbard, the DNC has a 5th round of debates that are coming up, and you know that A, you supported Clinton, B, they hated your guts for doing so, and C, there are people who work in media that have connections in politics. Because think about it for the moment. You're Hillary Clinton. You're somebody. And you need to get stories up. So you create relationships with various people in media. And within the context of those relationships, you leak them stories to give them information. But by the same token, that goes both ways. The stories that you're leaking are the stories you want in the media. And maybe you have friends in the media. Maybe you have people who have certain political allegiances. Or maybe this guy just thinks the troops should stay there forever. Whatever the reasoning is, these networks have decided to slander and slam Tulsi Gabbard. The DNC is now changing the debate rules again. Now, the DNC's incentive is we want to have a debate that don't have 20 people on stage. It looks like a clown car. And so they decide to alternate the rules as the debate goes through to shuffle off various people in the debate. There will be a 5th round of shuffling off of people in some process that only the DNC knows. And if you don't believe that the DNC is a fair arbiter in this process, I mean, after all, this is the group that said we can choose a candidate in a smoke-filled room. And that was in a lawsuit that was accusing the DNC of fraud for cheating Bernie Sanders. You're on a debate stage, you call them out. And I look on Twitter, and I see people on TYT lie or massively incompetent. And in the other case, just a poor, shameful take. Emma Vigeland, Anna Kasparian. Come on down. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal patron. Let's go to Anna's first, because hers is the most ridiculous. And I saw this tweet and I thought, I don't think she knows. I think she's blissfully incompetent. I don't think she knows. So Anna put out this in response to what Tulsi Gabbard said. Gabbard is lying. The U.S. troops in northern Syria weren't there for regime change war. They were there to deter Turkish aggression against the Kurdish allies until they were in a safe zone created. Her dishonesty here is gross. Democratic debate. And I thought, either she's lying or she's incompetent. And then I thought, I think she's incompetent. She doesn't know. She's on a news show and she doesn't know. Those Turkish forces were some of our guys. We were allies with those guys at one point because they were trying to take down Assad. We were working. Our troops went into that area. And even Fox News reported this. That's the wild part about this. This is not even secret information. Even Fox News comes out and says, hey, many of the weapons that we were dumping into the Free Syrian Army were going to ISIS. And they even had the truck driver who was saying such. The United States under Obama was having a clandestine war with Syria, with the CIA pumping weapons and whatnot to try to take down Assad. On the other side, you had some troops that were fighting ISIS. The weapons that were dumped into those Free Syrian Army troops, as they're sometimes called, were in many parts going to ISIS. Now, you had reports in mainstream media of CIA-backed troops fighting our troops on the overt side. Meaning the terrorists, ISIS in some cases, fighting our guys, our back troops. Why? Why do you think that's true? Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think there will ever be a situation where one side that we're backing is fighting the other side? Is it possible because the other side are terrorists and that we were backing the terrorists? And don't take my word for it. Fortunately, Aaron Matei's a file. Or Ben Norden. Washington Post. In Syria, we took the oil. Now Trump wants to give it to Iran. Wheat is a weapon. U.S. government-funded, Democrat-linked think tank. DC experts at a government-funded think tank boast that the United States was using its Kurdish proxies to hold Syria food production hostage, saying openly that the wheat weapon can be used to apply pressure for the Assad regime and through the regime on Russia. They wanted to get rid of Assad. Obama said it 1,000 times. Assad has to go, Assad has to go, Assad has to go. And just to make it more appropriate, here is Aaron Matei dropping a video of Joe Biden saying exactly the same thing. It was an open secret. The objective of the United States in Syria was to get rid of Assad. Terrorism was the reason and the weapon. Disgusting politics, but effective typically. Whatever you think of Assad, what do you think of Libya? What do you think of Honduras? What do you think of Iraq? What do you think of all these fires that we've set around the globe? And when you look around the globe, especially the Middle East, do you think it's been to the betterment or to the detriment of the Middle East? Libya, you can buy a black slave. Like, I'm trying to put it in perspective. Whatever you want to think of Gaddafi, we didn't make it better. Whatever you want to think of Saddam, we didn't make it better. Whatever you want to think of Syria under Assad, what I would promise you is, between the terrorists who were chopping heads and raping women that were backed by us and getting weapons by us, and Assad, they take Assad. It's not that he's a cuddly guy. It's more so that he's better than a terrorist. We have no business in Syria. You can make an argument that we created ISIS. Our actions in and of itself was the direct cause of ISIS. And now we're supposed to be fighting them. Great. Bring our troops home, throw them a parade. I don't like how Trump did it. If you're going to turn it over to Turkey, who don't own that land, by the way, you're essentially giving over land that the U.S. is illegally occupying. For some reason, I don't understand why people think we should stay forever. And instead of working with Assad to ensure a decent deal for the Kurds, you turn it over to Turkey, who doesn't own that land and who looks at that area for a power grab and a land grab and does just that. And now they're trying to roll it back. You don't have to love Assad. By the same token, I don't want us in this kind of imperial project. It's none of our business to bring our troops home. Anna Kasparian has no idea what she is talking about. This tweet is extraordinarily incompetent. Either she's lying or she doesn't know. And I strongly suspect she doesn't know. And she is on a news show giving news that is supposed to be on an indie network. She does not know what she is talking about. That's sad. That is provocatively incompetent. Let's go to the other one. Emma Vigeland. Tulsi Gabbard appears on Tucker Carlson. Now, Tulsi goes on Fox all the time. They don't really have her on the other networks outside of smearing her. Tucker gives her a fair hearing. Tucker is doing this for political posturing. exactly why he's doing it. I don't know if he's interested in Tulsi Gabbard in her opinion or not. He's on a right-wing show. It's great to have somebody who's a Democrat on his channel. And she comes on and she talks to him. He gives her a fair hearing right off the bat. He is sick of these regime change wars also, despite being on the right. She, on the left, I'm sick of these wars. They are in agreement. There may be 20 things that they disagree with, but on that particular point, they're in agreement. And I got to be honest, I don't give a shit if Tucker Carlson and other opinions. If he is for stopping our wars on that very specific point, we can agree. Why wouldn't I agree with somebody who agrees with me on that specific issue? On the issues to which we disagree, we disagree. I don't know why that's so difficult to do. Emma writes, the devolution into a full-blown right-winger is complete. So I was like, all right, what was said in the interview? Did Tulsi say something that makes her a right-winger in the way that Emma is talking about? Because right off the bat, I immensely doubted it. I said Emma has had several bad takes. Oftentimes, she rarely knows what she's talking about when she's on Twitter. And towards Gabbard, she seems to have a certain perspective. So right off the bat, I think Emma is probably full of shit. But I will give her the benefit of the doubt. All of us, exact same time. I've watched this before, which makes me that much more know as a flat fact that she doesn't know what she's talking about. But let's watch. And let's see if this, in any way, under any legitimate, rational human being terms, match up to what Emma is saying. Give her a fair hearing, right? Let's watch the video. Tucker Carlson, Emma saying, this makes Tulsi Gabbard a full-blown right-winger.
The entire U.S. press corps. Unlike virtually everyone else in her party, Gabbard believes in keeping America out of pointless foreign entanglements, and for that belief, she has been tarred repeatedly and very aggressively as a foreign agent. Last night, she hit back.
New York Times and CNN have also smeared veterans like myself for calling for an end to this regime change war. Just 2 days ago, the New York Times put out an apology of Russia.
I know that for a fact. Yeah, and CNN doesn't care for her either. We know that for a fact because recent footage from Project Veritas shows a CNN employee conceding that the network is institutionally hostile to Tulsi Gabbard. Watch this.
I think the one they don't like is Tulsi.
No.
They don't like Tulsi Gabbard.
No, why do you think? Just
Because she supports Assad and she's not taking the conventional route like when it comes to like foreign policy and stuff like that. So she's actually pretty liberal, but
yeah,
when it comes to that one position, like I think there are a lot of people are not cool with her.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii joins us tonight. So, Congresswoman, you just heard that. I don't know if you've seen that. I know you've been on the road. But there's a CNN employee saying that for taking an unconventional foreign policy position, you are the one Democratic candidate that CNN doesn't like. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't. You know, I think it's kind of absurd, actually, that as we saw in the days leading up to the debate last night, both the New York Times and CNN both ran hit pieces. Today, the day after the debate, we see more of these hit pieces coming out. And for them to sit there and try to portray themselves as neutral arbiters, as objective and independent entities, working with the DNC to carry out a legitimate debate is frankly, it's just a joke. So it's one of the reasons why I've been calling for, a nonprofit organization like the League of Women Voters to actually host these debates in a way that actually serves the interests of voters, not the profit, the profit-bearing corporate interests of the corporate media.
I couldn't agree more. So just for our viewers who maybe haven't followed this, when we say you've been attacked by the New York Times and CNN, it's not attacked like they're saying your health care plan's too expensive. They're saying that you're working for a foreign power against America's interest, that you're a traitor to our country. That New York Times piece essentially said that.
What is it specifically that Emma disagrees with. This is the New York Times piece, literally saying, or let's say implying strongly, that she's essentially working for Vladimir Putin. If I'm not mistaken, it actually says in the article. Here is this guy.
That's not just an allegation. I firmly believe that.
Message is coming now.
No, here I know. Watch the bots come on Twitter now. I firmly believe that Tulsi Gabbard stands on that stage is the antithesis to what the other 11 individuals stand for, especially when it comes to issues such as foreign policy. There is no question. Yeah. There is no question that Tulsi Gabbard, of all the 12, is a puppet for the Russian government.
There is no question. None. Zero question. It is solved. What is the question of life? It's 42. We found an answer. It's solved. That she is working for Vladimir Putin. CNN. They hosted the debate. CNN. They hosted the debate in association with the New York Times. So when Tulsi says, it seems that they have a bias against me, is that inappropriate to say? I don't understand what Emma's issue is. Some people brought up, well, it's because Tucker showed Project Veritas. So the fuck what? So what? She wasn't responding to anything about Project Veritas. Have you seen this video? Did you know that there was a bias against you? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there seems to be a bias against me. And the DNC seems to, be fucking around. And she said nothing about the video. She says nothing about Project Veritas. Nothing about any of that. Her basic point, and I've just showed you the video. I'll even put the video at the bottom so you can see it for yourself. But I've shown you the video, the opening and everything else. There's nothing. Nothing. Does what you just saw match up to the devolution into a full-blown right-winger is complete? And you know the irony, the awesome, weird irony, is that Tucker Carlson said, well, wait, they didn't attack your healthcare plan. I mean, they weren't attacking you because they thought, some policy position. They were going after you personally, slandering you. And look at this. She's a right-winger because she's bitching and moaning and complaining about the paper of record slandering her and CNN slandering her also, both of which were holding the debates. Does Emma believe that Tulsi shouldn't complain about that? Amazing. Shameful take. Shameful take by Emma Vigeland. Extraordinarily shameful. Unbecoming of whatever she has of journalistic integrity. She's burned that shit to ashes. This is a full-blown shameful take. I don't know if she didn't even just watch it. Because I don't know how you watch that and come away with full-blown right-winger. All right, Emma, what's the policy that you believe that makes her a full-blown right-winger? There isn't one. There isn't one. She appeared on Tucker Carlson and complained about being slandered by New York Times and Washington Post. Tucker Carlson plays a video by Project Veritas, a bullshit organization, and because he plays a video as an intro and asks her, have you seen this? Whether she saw it or not was irrelevant. In fact, even the intro was irrelevant. Everything that was in this video had to do with her making the point that I'm being slandered by the two organizations that were running the debates. But yeah, she's a full-blown right-winger. Let's finish it. Yeah, I'll give benefit of the doubt. Let's finish it.
What is this about?
Well, this is exactly what happens to those like myself who are trying to end this regime change war in Syria, who are calling for an end to our country's policy of being the world's police, bring about an end to these regime change wars. And this is something that is not just happening to me. You know, when they're issuing these smear attacks, really what they're doing.
It doesn't sound like she's going in a direction that's going to just blow my mind in regards to her being a right-winger. TYT, two shameful takes. This is sad. Be better people. Even if you dislike Tulsi Gabbard, Anna Kasparian needs to learn things first and foremost. First and foremost. And if Anna doesn't learn things, Anna shouldn't be doing the news. First and foremost. Second, Emma needs to be better. Emma needs to be a better person. You can dislike a candidate, but you shouldn't lie. Lying is different. Or at the very least, having a focal point view of the world that is utterly detached from that particular reality because of some other candidate or some other reason that is influencing point of view. Be better. Like, share, subscribe.